What if the fairest girl in the kingdom was hunted by her own queen? Tonight, discover the true magic behind Snow White, the kindness that saved her, the danger she escaped, and the friends who protected her in the darkest woods. Get cozy, close your eyes, and let this classic fairy tale unfold in a way you've never heard before.
Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, lived a kind and beautiful princess named Snow White. She had skin as white as snow, lips as red as roses, and hair as black as coal. She lived with her stepmother, the queen, who was beautiful on the outside but filled with jealousy and cruelty on the inside. The queen owned a magical mirror. Every day she would stand before it and ask, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And every day the mirror would reply, "You, my queen, are the fairest of them all." This answer always made the queen smile, for she loved being the most admired person in the kingdom. But as Snow White grew, her beauty blossomed, shining brighter with each passing day. One morning, the queen asked her mirror the same question, but this time its answer was different. "Snow White is the fairest of them all," it declared. The queen was consumed by fury. She could not stand the idea of anyone being more beautiful than her. In her rage, she devised a wicked plan. She summoned the royal huntsman and commanded him, "Take Snow White deep into the forest and never bring her back." The huntsman led the princess far into the woods. But when he looked into her kind, gentle eyes, he found he couldn't harm her. "Run away," he whispered urgently, "and never return to the castle. The queen must never find you." Frightened and alone, Snow White ran through the dense forest, dodging trees and stumbling over roots. Just as the sun began to set, she discovered a tiny cottage hidden among the trees. She knocked softly, but no one answered. Hesitantly, she stepped inside and saw 7 little chairs, 7 little bowls, and 7 tiny beds. Exhausted from her long run, she lay down across the beds and quickly fell into a deep sleep. That evening, the owners of the cottage returned. They were 7 dwarfs who spent their days in the mountains, digging for precious gems. When they saw Snow White sleeping, they gathered around her. "Who is this girl?" one of them asked. "She looks tired," said another. "Let's not scare her." "Maybe she needs help," suggested Jolly, the happiest of the 7. When Snow White awoke, she gasped in surprise, but the dwarfs were kind to her. She told them her story, and their faces grew serious. "You can stay with us," said Grumble, the gruffest one. "But the queen may come looking for you," warned Wise, the oldest. "I'll be careful," Snow White promised. She began living with the dwarfs, helping with chores and making the little cottage feel like a real home. They soon became like a family. But far away in her castle, the queen consulted her mirror again. "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And the mirror replied, "Snow White, who lives with the 7 dwarfs, is the fairest of them all." The queen was enraged. Using dark magic, she disguised herself as an old woman. She enchanted a shiny red apple, filling it with a terrible sleeping spell. Dressed in her disguise, the queen journeyed to the cottage and knocked on the door. "Hello, dear," she said sweetly to Snow White. "Would you like to try a special apple?" "It's the sweetest one you'll ever taste." Snow White hesitated. But the woman seemed harmless, and the apple looked absolutely delicious. She took one small bite, and suddenly her eyes closed, and she fell silently to the floor. The queen laughed wickedly and vanished back into the woods. When the dwarfs returned home, they found Snow White lying still and silent. They cried and tried everything they could, but she would not wake up. Heartbroken, they gently laid her in a glass case filled with soft flowers and placed it in a clearing deep in the forest. They stayed near her, always hoping for a miracle. One day, a prince rode through the woods and saw her. He had heard tales of her kindness and beauty. When he saw her peaceful face, his heart filled with sadness. He leaned down and gently kissed her forehead. In that moment, the spell was broken. Snow White's eyes fluttered open. The dwarfs jumped and cheered with joy. Snow White smiled at them, then turned to the prince. "Come with me," said the prince. "You'll be safe in my castle, and you will never have to be afraid again." Snow White hugged each of the dwarfs, her eyes filled with happy tears. "I'll never forget you," she said. She left with the prince to start a joyful new life. But she often returned to visit the 7 little friends who had given her love and safety when she needed it most. As for the evil queen, when she learned that Snow White was still alive, her anger grew so hot that it shattered her magic forever. She vanished from the kingdom, never to return. And so Snow White lived happily ever after. Always remembering that kindness, courage, and true friends are the most powerful magic of all. Thanks for watching our story today. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more magical tales.
And that's how Snow White found her happily ever after, through courage, kindness, and the friends who never gave up on her. If you enjoyed this magical journey, tap subscribe so you never miss another bedtime story. Let the music drift you into a peaceful sleep. Sweet dreams, little one.